I'm gonna survive 100 days underground in Minecraft Hardcore, but there are absolutely no caves, so to make any progress, I'll have to tunnel my way through everything. That's because this is Tunneler's Dream, one of the 9 secret Superflat presets made up of a whopping 230 layers of stone with some dirt on top. I'm on a quest to complete every Superflat preset by beating the Ender Dragon, killing the Wither, and making an amazing base. And without any villages at all, this might be the hardest challenge yet. Okay, so I'm making this world in 1.17 for one reason. I want a little friend to keep me company. In 1.17, axolotls weren't specific to any biome, so I should be able to find one. But first I need to, you know, chop trees and stuff, so I grabbed some wood and tools and immediately started making a little hidey hole. Initially, I was kind of surprised to see the trees and the snow, but it actually makes sense. Tunneler's Dream is in a windswept hills biome, meaning that above level 120 it snows. And since there are 230 layers of stone, we're far above snow level. This preset also has features in addition to structures, unlike the classic preset, which is why we're seeing trees. This also means that we'll be seeing things like lava and water pools, amethyst geodes, and ores. And since the windswept hills biome falls into the mountain category, we should even be able to find emerald ore. I saw some sheep in the distance, so I grabbed some seeds and planted them so that I can capture and start breeding them soon. Then I found an oak tree, so I started planting oak saplings next to flowers to try to get bees to spawn. Yeah, spoiler alert, I never got bees. When the sun went down, I built up a dirt wall to keep me safe, and why is the spruce door so smooth? Oh, why haven't I noticed this before? Shouldn't there be stripes? Was it always this smooth? Anyways, I saw a zombie with some leather armor, so I killed him for his swag and then began digging a hole as deep as I could go. But I ran out of ladders, so I kinda just had to wait the night out. Then a creeper blew up my front porch, and I knew things were getting real, so I made a furnace to cook up some charcoal for torches. I got shot by a skeleton while I was typing up my notes for the day, which really freaked me out. So I literally just waited out the rest of the night, and then when the sun came up, I went and collected all the bones on the ground from the singed skeletons. As the sun rose, it was officially day 1, because for some reason Minecraft worlds start on day 0, meaning that all of my 100 days videos are technically 101 days long, and I'm a liar and a fraud. But yeah, I used the bones I got to bone meal the wheat, and I was able to guide the sheep back to my base, if you can even call it that. I even got a rare brown sheep. After that, I chopped a bunch more trees, made a ton more ladders, and dug down until I ran out. I ran into a cloud on the way down that really spooked me at first. I thought I was like falling into the void or something. It's like the Minecraft equivalent of waking up on a plane while it's flying through a cloud and thinking that maybe the plane actually crashed while you were asleep and the afterlife is just an infinite economy class flight with no TVs in the backs of the seats and nothing to eat but Biscoff cookies for the rest of eternity. So anyhow, yeah, by the time I came back up to the surface, it was night and I got shot by a skeleton again, so I really just had to play it safe and wait it out again. When the sun finally came up on day 2, I once again went out to collect the mob drops in the ground, and I was able to use the rotten flesh I got to get some hearts back. Yummers. I used all of my bones to try to get a 2x2 spruce tree to grow, but I forgot that the snow layers prevent them from growing, so it was a total waste of bone meal. Since I still need hearts, I decided to make a campfire and kill one of my sheep, which allowed me to cook some mutton and finally get back to full health. I then continued drilling towards the bottom of the world and found my first ore. Even though it was only coal, I was still pretty happy to see ore in Superflat. But then a silverfish quickly rained on my parade and sent me right back down to half health. I forgot that these guys hide out in the stone blocks and mountain biomes. We're really gonna have to be careful about that moving forward. I found my first bit of iron, and then shortly afterwards, I finally reached Bedrock. Remember, we're still in 1.17, so the Bedrock layer for this world is actually at Y level 0. The climb back to the top took forever, and by the time I surfaced, it was apparently day 3. I used my new iron to craft a bucket, a shield, and an iron pickaxe. Then I grabbed some water from a nearby pond and used it to create a pool at the bottom of my pit so I can safely jump down the hole moving forward. I began to set up a little area for strip mining at the bottom, but I didn't get super far since I wanted to test out my drop chute. Dying this early into the run wouldn't be so bad, so I took a leap of faith and luckily I made it down in one piece. I figured while I was strip mining, I might as well start trying to get an axolotl to spawn, so I made what I thought was a good enough spawning room for them and then got back to mining. I continued mining into the next day, and I even made a little smelting area so I could try to get full iron armor. But the axolotl room didn't seem to be working, so I expanded it a bit and hoped for the best. All this strip mining had really worked up my appetite, so I decided to make a crop farm in my mining area so I wouldn't need to keep returning to the surface for food. Speaking of returning to the surface, I climbed up my ladder for the first time in a few days and was delighted to see it was snowing. Oh, it's snowing! It's a Christmas miracle! Sadly, I had to kill another sheep for food, but on the bright side, it did drop 2 mutton this time. Upon returning to my mines, there was still no axolotl, so I looked into the old spawning requirements once more and realized that the room just needed to be a little bit taller. And so I spent the morning of day 6 expanding the room to be 6 blocks tall. After that, I went back to strip mining for a bit, and I had a really close call with a creeper. But then when I checked my axolotl tank, I forgot all about the danger. Oh my god, we got some! Yes, dude! I grabbed one in a bucket and named him Grotto. Since I only wanted one axolotl, I was now ready to upgrade straight to 1.20.4. And nothing really seemed different, but I'm just super relieved that now mobs won't spawn at light level 7 anymore. My hunger was getting so low that I basically just had to wait around for my wheat to grow, but eventually I was able to eat some bread and recover my hearts for the first time in days. On day 7, I continued mining until I was able to get a full set of iron armor. I felt 100 times safer in my shiny new suit. I also found my first diamonds. It feels so cursed to see these in Superflat. Next, I began digging out a drop chute for a mob farm so I can collect stuff like bones and hopefully solve my food problem. I finished the drop chute the next day and moved on to digging out the spawn pads. It took me basically all day to mine everything out, but I had a bit of time left that night to craft some more barrels and organize my stuff a bit. The following day, I finished digging out the farm and got the water streams into place. I want to put trapdoors along the sides of the pads to trick the mob's AI into walking off into the water, so I mined a ton of wood on the surface and then placed them all in. After that, I knocked out all the torches and the farm was officially functioning. It felt amazing to have a steady supply of mob drops coming in. Plus, the farm will be a really good source of XP moving forward. On day 10, I used the mob farm for a little while and then spent some time creating some storage for all the drops. I really want to get carrots and potatoes from a zombie so that we can eventually make a villager breeder and an auto crop farm. But since I didn't have enough iron for all of the hoppers, it was back to the mines to get more ore. And I found my first bit of gold, which was kind of cool. I'm rich! 10 days in and I'm still not overseeing these ores in Superflat. Things got really interesting on day 11 when one of my mines ended up running into a mine shaft. Oh, what do we have here? Oh my god, I looked at him. Help! Okay, we're good. I found some diamonds in the mine shaft, which was a cool treat, and I wanted to keep exploring, but after fighting a bunch of mobs, my health was pretty low, and I had to go back to the base for some food. On the bright side, one of the zombies in the mine shaft dropped a carrot, so I was able to plant it and bone meal it to get a bunch of them. I spent the rest of the day organizing my items and farming wheat for bread until my health was back up. I really want to make a nether portal, so on day 12, I turned on subtitles and went strip mining so I could keep my eyes peeled for any indication of lava. I didn't find lava, but I did find an amethyst crystal, which was pretty cool to see. But then finally, after picking a new spot to dig, I spotted the lava pops subtitle and started digging towards the sound. There it is. This stuff sure is a hot commodity. I really hate moving nether portals, so I wanted to find the absolute perfect spot for my portal. I ended up digging out a big space right in front of my mob drop chute. But then I just kept mining to widen out the whole room. Turns out, since I never get to just mine big rooms out of stone like this on my flat world, I'm kind of addicted to it. On day 14, I returned to the surface once more. I brought my carrots with me so I could cajole the neighborhood pigs back to my base. I bred the pigs and my sheep, and then it was back down to the mines to continue digging out a nice big area for my nether portal. Every so often, I went to clear out the mobs from my mob farm, and while doing so, I discovered that the skeletons were trying to shoot me and producing tons of records. But you've probably never heard of them. They're super underground. I returned to the surface once again on day 15 to spend the day chopping wood. Then once nighttime fell, I dropped back down my hole to officially start making my nether portal. Using just 2 buckets, I tediously ran back and forth from the lava pool to my base in order to cast a nice big portal. It took me until the next morning to finish it, but I think it was worth it. Bigger portals just look so much better. I lit the frame up with a flint and steel and went in to poke my head around. We were right on the edge of a big lava lake and a crimson forest biome, but I was too timid to explore quite yet, so it was back to the safety of my cave to prepare. I cleaned out my inventory and grabbed arrows and scaffolding blocks so that I could pillar up if I got in trouble. Then I dove back into the portal and started exploring. Right away, I had to bridge over lava and then battle a hoglin, so things were tense. I hate the nether in hardcore mode, dude. But then I spotted the nether fortress close by and decided to head there for blaze rods. Once I made it there, I immediately spotted the blaze spawner, so I boxed up underneath it and began the long and careful process of picking off the blazes one by one. I played it super safe and was able to get 8 blaze rods in total. As much as I love the nether, I was eager to get home, so I safely returned the next day with my rod. Next up, I needed ender pearls to find the stronghold, so I crafted some boats for catching endermen. I also went ahead and crafted a clock so that I could tell when it was nighttime on the surface. I did some mob farming and tended to my crops until night fell, and then I headed topside to look for endermen. Immediately, I almost died when a skeleton shot me into my pig pen with a baby zombie. In order to escape, I had to let all my pigs free, which sucked, and then to add insult to injury, phantoms started spawning. I completely forgot about these flying farts. I decided to just completely give up on hunting endermen in the overworld and head back into the nether to look for a warped forest biome. Using my zoom mod, I was able to spot one in the far distance from my portal. So on day 18, I started making my way over there. Once again, I came extraordinarily close to dying when I tried placing a block against gravel that was sitting in lava. Oh god, please, no, 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 please, please, please. Oh, stop burning, stop burning. After some more scary lava bridging, I finally made it to the warped biome, and there were loads of endermen there waiting to be slain. At first, my RNG was pretty bad. I killed 15 endermen and only got 5 pearls. I was so frustrated that I 300 kicked a piglin off a cliff into lava. This is Mogswamp! erect. But my luck turned around on day 19 and I was able to get 15 pearls in total. So I ran home as fast as I safely could and crafted up the Eyes of Ender. With that, it was officially day 20 and I was ready to take on the dragon. So I prepared plenty of food and arrows for the fight and it was back up the endless ladder. Once I could taste the fresh air, I yeeted my first ender eye to get my headache. But before leaving my base, I had to wrangle all the pigs that had escaped back into their pit. I even cooked a few of them to really put them in their place. Guys, I'm a pescatarian in real life, okay? I promise I'm not a monster. Somehow it was already night, so I got my butt into gear and started venturing out into the great unknown. I found a pumpkin patch, which was exciting because I had no idea they were in this preset. By the end of the night, I had broken 2 Eyes of Ender, but I was pretty certain I had the right spot. And so, as the sun rose on day 21, I began making my way down to the stronghold. And on the way, I managed to uncover a vein of 6 diamonds. Not bad. I landed in the stronghold library, and I must have an overdue book or something because immediately tons of angry librarians began attacking me. The mobs just kept on coming, but I valiantly fought my way through the stronghold until I was finally able to find the portal room. Yo, 4 eyes filled in? Kinda lucky. I placed the remaining eyeballs into the portal frames, and with a mysterious clang, the cold void of the end appeared before me, beckoning me forth. So after quickly organizing my inventory, I took a deep breath and hopped through the portal. After scaffolding to the main island, I used the snowballs I collected on the way to the stronghold to quickly disable all but one of the towers. Then I used my water bucket to wriggle my way up to the tower and destroy the final end crystal. The dragon came ridiculously close to killing me on the way down, but thankfully a tiny puddle broke my fall. Since I used snowballs for the crystals, I had plenty of arrows left for the dragon, but it turns out that waiting for her to perch was way more effective. On the first perch, I knocked off about a third of her health, but I was launched into the air and had to water clutch. It probably wouldn't have killed me, but it's good to know my gamer skills are sharp. Basically, the same exact thing then happened twice more. Dragon perches, I do a third of the total health, get launched, and clutch. Then on the 4th perch, a few more hits was all it took to free the end, and in doing so, we completed our first major task for this video. So I collected the dragon's egg as a souvenir of our accomplishment, and then headed straight through the end gate to reach the outer islands. In the far distance, I could see an end city, but there didn't appear to be any ships, so I set off in a different direction. I traveled for a few thousand blocks, bridging and throwing ender pearls, until finally I was able to spot 2 end cities with ships right next to each other. I reached the city by day 24 and carefully climbed my way up to the top, taking it nice and slow. I had to collect a bunch of purple blocks so that I could bridge out far enough to get hit by a shulker projectile and board the end ship. But with the elytra secured, I was finally safe from most deadly falls. Plus, I got tons of diamonds and other goodies in the loot chests. I didn't want to push my luck in the end, so I started gliding back towards the end gate and I managed to find it pretty fast. I went through and then hopped back down my hole with all of my new loot. I organized everything as best I could, and then I crafted myself a brand new diamond pick so that I could grab some obsidian from the lava pool for an enchanting table. Unfortunately, I realized that I forgot to grab any books from the stronghold. So I had to put the enchanting table on the back burner, and I decided to start grinding through mobs to try and get a zombie villager in my drop chute. I made sure to continue digging out space for my base in between checking the mob farm. I spent the entirety of the next day continuing to dig and checking the mobs until finally I was able to spot a villager in the chute. So I carefully blocked off the chute and began killing the mobs one by one. I realized there were actually 2 villagers, which meant we'd be able to make our breeder. But then a skeleton shot one. No! Bro, why? I went ahead and crafted a gapple for the villager, but I realized I couldn't make the weakness potion. You need a fermented spider eye for the recipe, and I had the brown mushroom and the sugar, but no spider eyes. So I thought, easy, I'll just kill 1 spider in that part of the chute I blocked off. How naive I was. A bunch of baby zombies poured out through the hole I made and came extremely close to ending my run. But after dealing with that, I could literally see the spider eye I needed. I just had to grab it. And yeah, the creeper killed my villager. This felt like a pretty massive setback, and I was in full-on gamer rage mode. But I calmed down and decided to head to the mine shaft to look for spiders instead. After all of this could have been avoided if I had just had the spider eye ready ahead of time. While I was in the mine shaft, I found more gapples in the minecart chests, and I also got glowberries. Another chest had a name tag, and I also made sure to grab some glow lichen from the walls. I actually found another villager wandering the mines, so I captured him in a boat and then spent the next morning digging a tunnel all the way back to my base. I finally had my spider eye, so I brewed some potions back at the base, and then I ran back to the mine shaft to cure our first villager. While he was curing, I ran around the shaft grabbing all the rails I could. While doing so, I found pumpkin, melon, and beetroot seeds in the various minecart chests, which I also made sure to snag. I then transferred our villager into a minecart and slowly brought him back to the base with the limited rails I had. I made a little hole in the wall to keep him in temporarily, and then I planted all the new crops I got while exploring the mines. On day 30, I officially began creating a villager trading hall. I dug out some space behind my axolotl tank where I want them to go. I also started digging out a space in the wall for a villager breeder. I got a fair bit done on it and was almost finished by the next day. But I wanted some shroom lights for the walls, so I headed into the nether to quickly grab some. Before I could even get any, a hoglin kindly reminded me how dangerous the nether really is. But after that close shave, I was able to grab some shroom lights and return back to the Mog hole safely. I put the shroom lights and beds into the villager breeder, meaning it was just about done. I just needed one more villager to get it up and running. And so on day 32, I began grinding mobs again to try and find another villager. Once again, I made sure to clear out more space for my base in between checking the mob farm. Hey look, diamonds. I had no luck getting a villager, so the next morning I went topside to get tons of spruce wood. I managed to collect about 5 stacks before night fell. Then I continued checking for villagers for the rest of the evening while laying down the first bit of decoration in the Mog hole. The first thing I focused on was making my little water drop pool look better. The next morning I began building a nice staircase down to the mob farm area. I left a big open space in the center of the room so that I can eventually make some sort of cool floor pattern here. As I was adding some proper storage chests to the mob farm area, I finally spotted a baby villager in the chute. So once again, I blocked off the tube and started picking off the mobs one by one, and I discovered that there was actually an adult villager in there too. After clearing out all the mobs, I was able to catch both of them in boats and begin the curing process. Now I just need to be extra careful when transporting them to the breeder, and we should have infinite villagers. While the mob drop chute was still blocked up, I took the opportunity to decorate the area a little better. By the end of the day, the villagers were done baking, so I spent the following morning transporting them to the breeder in minecarts. Once I got them both into place, I began bone mealing all of the carrots to ensure the farm was fully planted. The next day, I moved the third villager into that area where I'm planning to put the trading hall. After a quick wheat harvest, I got to digging and cleared out a big space for the hall. More diamonds! I made a little slot for each villager using spruce logs, and then I began to decorate. By the end of the day, the basic skeleton of the room was finished. The next day, I added in some trapdoors that will make it so the villagers can't escape their little pods. And then I got the first villager into place. I want to make him a librarian, but I need books for the lectern. So I decided it was finally time to return to the stronghold. While trying to find my way back to the stronghold, I found some 4-block tall sugarcane, which seemed pretty rare. I was super excited because I didn't even know you could find sugarcane in this preset. I would have had to get it from the wandering trader, and since we're spending so much time underground, I doubt I'm gonna see him much during this video. Sugarcane will not only be great for getting emeralds through the paper trade, but it also means that I can craft rockets and actually take off with my elytra rather than being limited to gliding. I also found this weird patch of gray grass on the way to the stronghold, which I'm pretty sure is like a really rare cursed block. I just love how cursed Superflat can be sometimes. I got super lost while looking for the stronghold, and it took me most of the following day to finally find it. Once there, I grabbed a bunch of books, and then I hopped through the end portal so that I could quickly return back to my base. I was finally able to craft an enchantment table, and I also gave a lectern to Villager Prime. I started making books for my enchantment setup as well, but I ran out of wood before I could make them all. Then I planted the sugarcane I got on my little adventure and went back to digging out my base. On day 39, I went back into the nether to grab some more shroom lights. It went pretty smoothly, and when I came back to put the lights behind my storage chests, I found, you guessed it, more diamonds. I did a bit more digging, and then I saw that my villager finally accepted his job as a librarian. I'll need to farm some sugarcane so that we can start trading paper with him and get some emeralds going. In the meantime, I started working on building my enchantment table setup into the floor of the trading hall. I think this is gonna look pretty slick with all the deep slate. Man, I can't tell you how much I wish I had this stuff in my normal Superflat world. Anyways, I finished the enchanting setup except for the last few books I need. Then I went back to digging and continued to do so for most of day 40. I made sure to stop and expand the sugarcane farm whenever I saw it grow. By the end of the day, the base was starting to look pretty spacious. The next morning, I did another tree chopping expedition on the surface, and then I returned to the Mog hole to decorate a bunch more. I added in some platforms where I'll be able to mine oak trees down here for a quick source of wood without having to go to the surface. That way I can use spruce for decorating and oak wood for crafting stuff like chests and barrels. The following day, I put some shroom lights down on my tree platforms to help stimulate their growth. Then I finally started breaking down my little starter area in front of Grotto's pool. I moved the furnaces down and added some smokers and blast furnaces to break up the wall a little. I also added glowberries to my trading hall and then dug out some space for a new and improved sugarcane farm. Then I added some walls with lanterns around the space to lighten the mood a bit and cleaned up my storage a little. It really felt like the base was starting to come together. On day 43, I checked on the villager breeder, but no villagers had spawned yet. Sometimes it takes a while for their inventories to fill up with carrots so that they start breeding, so I figured it was probably just that. I needed some oak saplings for my tree farm, so I emerged from my hole to grab some and sheared my sheep while I was up there. I dropped back down and planted them, and then started figuring out how I want my storage area to look. That's when I made a huge mistake. Oh god. Oh my god. No. Mobs began pouring through the hole at an alarming rate. I managed to somehow survive the onslaught of monsters by burrowing into the wall and swiping at their feet. Eventually, I was able to clear them out for long enough to patch up the hole. After that harrowing ordeal, I really needed to do something a little bit more chill. So I started creating some new crop farms for carrots and potatoes underneath Grotto's pool. I laid out the farmland with 3 blocks between the 2 fields so that once I have more villagers, I can turn this into an auto crop farm. I finished the 2 farms the following morning and then used bone meal from my mob farm to get tons of carrots. I chucked all the carrots carrots at the farmer and the breeder to hopefully inspire some baby making. Afterwards, I finally finished off my enchanting setup and then worked on creating a balcony for my strip mines with a trapdoor railing. I also finally unblocked my mob drop chute so that we can actually use the farm again. On day 45, I finally got rid of the big wheat farm in the middle of the room, which made the base feel huge. Then I used my diamonds to craft a full set of armor, which should make things a lot less dangerous moving forward. I took my new safety suit into the nether to quickly grab some quartz and basalt, and then I returned home that evening to craft some redstone components with the quartz. I also used the basalt to establish a nice pattern in the floor. It was looking really good, but for some stupid reason, I decided to use smithing tables around the border, which cost 2 iron ingots each. Since I can get iron ore in this preset, I'm committed to not making an iron golem farm in this video. So if I want to finish my floor, I'm gonna have to do it the hard way. But that was a problem for another day. So I spent the remainder of the day building up a sugarcane farm with those new redstone components I crafted. It doesn't have any collection system yet, but well, that's also a problem for another day. And speaking of another day, it was now day 47, another morning chopping spruce up on the surface. Afterwards, I plunged back down the hole and started decorating the entrances to my strip mines. I expanded them to have even more tunnels on each side, and then I continued the balcony all the way along the edge. The next morning, I checked my breeder again. Still no villagers. This is so bad. To add to my woes, my librarian simply refused to accept a job quickly, making resetting for good books impossible. So I cleaned up the area around my sugarcane farm a little to cheer myself up, and then I harvested my carrot farm again. I brought like 5 stacks of carrots to the farmer in the breeding chamber to hopefully get things going. Afterwards, it seemed like my librarian was finally ready to start cooperating. Oh, no. Spoke too soon. So I ended up just doing some odd jobs around the base. I worked on the area around the mob farm some more, extended my floor pattern a little bit, and then I started figuring out the spacing for an actual storage room for all my stuff. I gave the storage room a balcony for bulk items that I'll get while strip mining, like cobblestone and deep slate. The only problem was that I needed a ton of wood to fill in all those barrels. I wasn't quite ready for another day of chopping, so instead I tried doing a couple resets, and I managed to get a mending trade. I immediately grabbed a book to resuscitate my nearly dead efficiency 5 pick. I named it Tunneler's Dream because this is the one thing this tunneler's been dreaming of. Okay, that was weird out loud, I'm sorry. Anyways, I used my mob farm to repair my pickaxe, and then I checked my villager breeder again. Still nothing. I vented my frustrations by mining as much stone as possible with my newly repaired pickaxe. I really wanted to finish off the whole room soon, so I was in grind mode, baby. In fact, I mined for like the entire next day. I mined so much that I almost didn't even notice that I had made it halfway through the challenge. But then, the terror set in. I mean, I've only completed one of my main goals so far. Plus, in my previous challenges, I had a villager breeder by like day 5. It seems like starting without villages in this preset really set me back, but I was determined to make a huge comeback in Act 2. So I threw another few stacks of carrots at the celibate couple, and I managed to spot the hearts particle for the first time, which was a really good sign. I mean, it's been like 20 whole days since I built this breeder. It's about time. The next day, I added some more details to my strip mine entrances, and then I climbed up to the surface to widen out the drop chute into my base. I thought a 3x3 hole would look much nicer than the dinky little 1x2 I've been working with. I finished the wider chute the next day, and then I climbed back up again to bring my pigs down into the mog hole. I put them off to the side in a little hole and bred them, and then I spent the rest of the evening adding some height to the base's ceiling to make things feel a whole lot less claustrophobic. I continued digging out the base the next morning to ensure that everything would be perfectly symmetrical. I gave another couple stacks of carrots to the villagers in my breeder, and then I spent the night using the tree farm in the base to gather the wood I needed for the barrels and chests in the storage room. I was also out of spruce wood for decorating, so on day 54, I had another lumberjack morning. And then my worst fear almost came true. One careless dirt block left behind had almost taken me out halfway through the challenge. This would have been devastating. I was pretty shook up, but I buried myself into my work, continuing to shape and decorate the balcony area before logging out for the night. But on day 55, I returned to the world with a renewed motivation. I was talking to my friend Fwip on Minecraft SOS, and he taught me that you need space above the beds in the breeder for the villagers to actually start breeding. Oh my god, dude, it worked! We finally have a baby! Yes, dude! After that massive triumph, I sorted a bunch of cobblestone into my bulk storage, and then I used up the last of my iron on some more smithing tables for my floor. Then I built a little minecart station to grab villagers from my breeder. This should make my life a whole lot easier while I'm getting lots of trades. The next day, I tried out the new system and put a Fletcher into the trading hall so I could start trading sticks for emeralds. I traded with my mending villager for some glass, and then I put it on the back of Grotto's pool so I'll be able to see him swimming around in there. Since I was out of iron, I did a little bit of strip mining. When I returned from the mines, I expanded my pig pit to give the little hams more room. I also made a new pit on the opposite side of the base for my sheep. I finished digging it out the next morning, and then I quickly traded for some more glass before going to fetch my sheep. Ah, I'm falling! Good thing I brought my parasheep. Alright, so maybe I'm not a comedian, but luckily I am a good builder. And if you've ever wanted to take a closer look at any of my builds, then I've got a deal for you. All my world downloads, including my flat world, the Just Dirt world, and my 100 Days Challenge worlds are available for purchase on my Patreon. When you become a patron, you'll unlock all the worlds, plus tons of individual schematics of all my builds. I even put the plane from earlier in this video. All schematics are available in Lightmatica, World Edit, and even Axiom formats. And if you're not into the whole monthly subscription thing, I've got the world downloads and schematics available for one-time purchase in the store. We have tons of other perks like 4K wallpapers, exclusive Discord channels, and even personalized in-depth advice for your YouTube channel from me, Mogswamp. Patreon is genuinely the best way to support me directly, so if you're enjoying the video, please check it out. I just put up the world download for this episode. But for now, it's back to building. I did a bit more work on my storage room for the rest of the evening to try to get it looking a bit more finished. Yeah, it's getting there. On day 58, I spent some time filling in the trading hall with some new villagers. I farmed some wood for a while to get sticks to trade, and then I crafted a bunch more lecterns for getting librarians. The nighttime isn't the best for resetting trades, so I decided to spend the night decorating my carrot and potato farm with some deep slate walls. Taking the time to finish off little stuff like this really makes a big difference. I crafted a composter so I can get a farmer villager in my trading hall, and then I managed to get a silk touch trade, which I locked in after trading tons of sticks. I also found Unbreaking 3, but I didn't have the emeralds I needed to get the trade, and I fumbled the bag. The villager reset his trade and the enchantment was gone. So the next morning, I placed a clock in my trading hall so I could keep track of the time a bit more precisely. This really helps with knowing exactly when the villagers will trade or reset for the day. Luckily, I managed to find a cheaper Unbreaking 3 trade, so I crafted a diamond axe to quickly grab some sticks, and then I successfully locked it in. Then I spent some time transporting a villager from my breeder to my carrot and potato farm. I'm ready to convert it to an automatic farm now that we finally have surplus villagers. To wrap up the day, I locked in a Fortune 3 trade. The trading hall was quickly filling up with some awesome deals. After another wake and chop on day 61, I started laying down the floor for the auto crop farm. But I needed some hoppers for the collection system, so I went to do a bit of strip mining to try and get some. I came up empty-handed, but the day wasn't a total loss. I grabbed some more glass from the trading hall, and also I brought another villager down to the crop farm. Then I was able to get the third villager in place the next day, and after strip mining in one of my second level branches at Y level 15, I was finally able to get the hoppers for the farm. I placed in the hoppers and a hopper minecart, almost killing my villager in the process, but I was still just short of the iron I needed for the second hopper minecart. I got desperate and mined the iron from the ceiling of the base, and it turned out to be a huge vein. So I placed the final minecart and the farm was ready to go. I threw tons of carrots and potatoes at my villagers to jumpstart production, and then I grabbed some shroom lights from the nether to light up the farm. While I was in the nether, I killed as many hoglins as I could to collect some leather, since I never did find any cows on the surface. I returned back to the base and traded for more glass, and then I finished off all the decorations for the farm. But I still want to make one more farm that'll be good for collecting emeralds. An automatic melon and pumpkin farm. I decided to put it in the same place as the sugarcane farm, but on the opposite side of the base. I got all the redstone for the farm done, and then I began making it look nice with some spruce wood. I got rid of my original pumpkin and melon farm, if you can even call it that, and then I planted the seeds in the new farm. I dressed up the sugarcane farm a little more to match the other side, and then I crafted a ton of spruce trapdoors to hide all of my lighting for the balconies. Next, I traded with my villagers to get some glass, and then I started to seal off each farm. I just needed a bit more glass for the sugarcane side. They were both basically finished other than a collection system, so I started digging out some tunnels under each farm. I took a quick break to check my mob farm and spotted a mob wearing some spiffy diamond pants, but sadly they didn't drop. The next morning, I finished off the glass for the sugarcane farm, and then I tried to do some resetting with my librarians. As usual, they weren't having it, so I went back to working on the collection systems for the farm. I used water streams to deliver the pumpkins and melons to the storage chest, but I opted for a minecart collection system for the sugarcane. The only issue was that I didn't have enough iron for all the hoppers I needed. I'm really starting to regret that smithing table floor. Luckily, I was able to find some iron pretty quick in one of my mines, and I finished off the minecart collection system by the end of the day. But my system had one fatal flaw. The noise from the minecart was going to drive me absolutely bonkers. So I decided to move the entire sugarcane farm back a block and just use a water stream to move the items like we did on the other side. It didn't take too long to get it set up, and I was already enjoying the peace and quiet. I went back to rolling for enchantments, and this time I was able to secure a looting 3 trade, which I'll definitely need to get wither skulls. The next day, I added the book to my sword, along with mending and unbreaking. I spent the rest of the day gathering wood and emeralds since my villagers were being too stubborn to reset once again. Day 68 was another wood chopping morning. After gathering tons of spruce, I returned to the mog hole to trade for some glass. I wanted to finally finish off Grotto's pool since it had sort of become the centerpiece of the base. I also worked on tidying up the walkways on either side of the tank. The aquarium was starting to look as nice as the day count. I put a spruce ceiling inside that really helped it look more finished. After wasting time dinking around with my villagers for a bit, I added a nice spruce log trim to my animal pens. Then I added even more detailing to my still unfinished storage area. area. But by the next day, I simply couldn't take it anymore. I was losing my mind. No matter how hard I tried, I could not get my villagers to take jobs. This had gone on long enough, so I decided to dig out a long rail tunnel with a little room on the end. The plan is to isolate my villagers in the little room to reset them, and then move them back to the hall once I lock in a good trade. I tried out the new system, and it was working wonders. I was able to get an efficiency 5 trade, but I wasn't prepared and I lost my opportunity. So I spent all of day 71 making sure I had enough emeralds, and then re-rolling until I finally found the trade again and was able to lock it in. The next morning, I brought the villager back to my hall, and I was able to put efficiency 5 and mending on my diamond axe. I tried it out on my tree farm and was super pleased. From this point on, gathering wood would be so much faster. I repaired the axe using my mob farm and then continued chopping wood to get tons of emeralds. Oh my god, I can't get away from these guys, even here. I really wanted to try to get a protection 4 trade, so I went ahead and carted one of my villagers and sent him off to the isolation chamber. I spent the entirety of day 73 chopping wood, trading for emeralds, and resetting, but I had no luck getting the trade I was looking for. But finally, I found the trade about 5 minutes into day 74 and I quickly locked it in. It was time to start grinding for emeralds so I could get a complete set of fully enchanted armor. So I repaired my axe in preparation and then got to chop it. Since I now had a looting sword and was about to have a stacked set of armor, I was just about ready to go hunting for wither skeleton skulls so I can fight the wither. So I decided to make some fireworks so that I'll be able to quickly and easily navigate through the nether without worrying about the lethal lava and harmful hoglins. I traded for the last protection and unbreaking books I needed and then started combining everything together. I finished my helmet, followed by my pants and boots, and then I crafted a shiny new chest plate. The next day, I put enchantments on my elytra and chest plate, and I was basically ready to go. But before I took off, I fixed some ugly walls by my auto crop farm by adding some sleek deep slate tiles. With that, I was officially ready, so I headed into the nether and blasted off. On the way to the fortress, I made sure to grab some low-hanging quartz. When I made it to the fortress, there were tons of wither skeletons, but I quickly realized I'd forgotten my bow. This was a big problem, because I just kept getting sniped by blazes over and over and over. So after killing a bunch of wither skellies with no luck, I decided to cut my losses and head back for the bow. After grabbing it, I turned right back around and flew back to the fortress. Immediately, having a ranged weapon made a huge difference. I flipped the script and started sniping blazes left and right. I even found some nice loot in the fortress chests, including a diamond and some smithing templates. The place was absolutely crawling with wither skellies, and I was slaying tons of them. But even though things were definitely easier with the bow, I was still having some close calls with blazes shooting me from across the world. I managed to collect my first skull, but I nearly died doing so. In fact, I was burning through health like crazy, and I was already almost out of food. Then I fumbled with my elytra and jumped straight into a lava pool. But after spamming rockets, I was able to get out. Soon after that, my food ran out, and my arrows were also dwindling to depletion. So I had no choice but to head home and restock on food and arrows. I took the opportunity to clear my inventory out a bit, and I wanted to craft some more rockets, but I was out of sugarcane. So I stuck around for a bit and did some chores until eventually I was able to craft a few more rockets. With that, it was back to the fortress. I found more loot chests with some goodies like diamonds and saddles, and then I had yet another near-death experience that made me rethink all of my life decisions. I had literally been knocked off the cliff directly onto a magma cube. But my spam clicking once again saved my life, along with the prop 4 armor, which was putting in some work. But on the bright side, I found another diamond and I got my second skull. I must have been getting worn out from all these close calls because this next one is probably the most pathetic one yet. Turns out I'm really bad at switching between my chest plate and my elytra. Truth be told, my terrible elytra swapping was proving to be the most hazardous part of this entire ordeal. Soon after, I was hiding behind a basalt pillar when a blaze sniped me off the ledge. Before I could even recover from the fall, a wither skeleton was on me, threatening to chew through my last few hearts. But I blindly thrust my vorpal blade into the skeleton, and with a snicker snack, I had gotten the third and final wither skull. I'm going home now. Somehow, I made it back to the Moghole safe. I was so happy I could have kissed the cold, cavernous walls of my cave. I put my things away and wrapped up the evening with some relaxing wood chopping. I really needed to decompress, so I just decided to do some fun stuff on day 80, like hanging up paintings in the mob farm room. I also bought a bunch of glass and finished up the front of the axolotl tank. On day 81, I decided that I was going to create a better way up to the surface. Climbing up the ladder was super slow, so I wanted to make a separate area behind Grotto's pool for a bubble column. After marking down the cords for the new chute, I went ahead and used my spruce wood to finish decorating all the entrances to my strip mines. Then I quickly dipped into the nether to grab some more basalt so I could finally finish off the floor patterns around the base. I also installed some little netherwort farms next to my sugarcane and melon farms. I spent the following morning trying to get the last of the iron I needed for the smithing tables in the floor. I was pretty sure I had enough, so I put it all in the oven to smelt and then added some storage for my new netherwort farms. Once the iron was done cooking, I put the last of the smithing tables into the floor. Alright, it looks pretty cool. Maybe it was worth it after all. I climbed back up to the surface, and then I found the coords I had marked down for my new bubble column. I started digging down, and my aim was perfect. Now, I could fly right out with rockets until I set up the bubble column. I crafted some more rockets and gave it a try, and it turns out it takes 5 rockets just to reach the surface. I really don't want to burn through that many rockets every time, so I started working on digging out a big ice tray on the surface. Usually when I make a bubble column, I just place a block of water at the top and then use kelp to convert it to source block. But since I don't have kelp from the Wandering Trader, I'm gonna use the ice method instead. But to do that, we needed a silk touch pick. So I slowly went back down into the mog hole, getting rid of the ladder as I went. Then I mined for enough iron to make an anvil, and I was able to put the silk touch enchantment onto my pick. I used it to break into my axolotl tank to add some gravel and seagrass, so Grotto will be extra happy. While I was in there, I added some rocks and glowberries, and the tank was looking awesome. I figured the ice was probably ready to harvest, so I flew up to the surface and grabbed about 3 stacks. I needed to wait for at least one more harvest to have enough ice, so it was back to the mog hole to do some organizing. I really wanted to get rid of all the floating chests, so I was beginning to sort all my stuff into the storage room. While I was at it, I added more of the missing chests and barrels to the storage area, and I started putting logs behind the chests for a more finished look. The next morning, I pillared up the new chute with ice and then used a rocket to get to the top and collect the last bit of ice I needed. Once the chute was filled to the brim with ice, I dropped back into the mog hole and started mining the ice upwards. It's pretty slow, but doing it this way ensures I won't drown. Each ice block I break becomes a water source and continues the bubble column upwards, allowing me to breathe. It took way too long to mine all the ice, but once I made it to the top, a creeper was there to congratulate me. I dropped back down to try out the elevator, and it worked great. It still took a while to reach the top, but it was way faster than climbing up this stupid ladder. With that done, it was back to chopping wood and working on finishing off the storage room. I finished placing all the chests and barrels and then spent pretty much the entire day moving items around and attempting to get everything organized. I also replaced some of the walls of the mob farm drop chute with glass so I can see a bit easier. This would have been so nice when I was hunting for the zillagers. On day 87, I finished removing every last floating chest and barrel from the beginning of the 100 days. It felt insanely good to finally have everything cleaned up. Then I spent the rest of the day doing the tedious job of finishing up the back and tops of the chests so that no ugly stone peeks through the front. I added some lanterns to the front and took out all my torches, and everything was looking much more finished. But unfortunately, there was still so much organizing to be done. Some of my chests were still full of junk, like when you clean up your room by just kind of throwing everything into your closet. So I spent all of day 88 on organizing my chests and labeling my storage area with the signs above the chests. I even added white dye and glow squid ink for readability. I continued organizing into the next day, and by the afternoon, I was finally just about done. So I took an excursion to that geode I had found way back on like day 12. I grabbed some amethyst and then used my smithing table floor to add some sexy purple trims on my armor with the trims I had found on my adventures. Oh my god, dude, we look so swaggy. I spent the rest of day 89 getting rid of straight torches, adding some final touches to the base, and just generally cleaning things up. As we approached our final 10 days, I was feeling like the base was getting pretty close to finish. But when I went to the surface to mine some spruce wood on day 90, something dawned on me. Even though we have an amazing underground base, you would never even know I had spent 100 days in this world from looking at the surface. I think that's kind of a shame, so I decided I would try to make something cool up here for the last 10 days. So I started cleaning up all of the ugly dirt walls and silk touched some grass to bring down to my sheep enclosure. I quickly installed the grass for my sheep and then spent the rest of the day gathering building blocks and my shulkers to bring up to the surface. I want to make some wheat and beetroot farms up there since we only have carrots and potatoes down in our base. So I grabbed plenty of seeds as well as spruce wood and tons of basalt and deep slate. The next morning, I was ready to start building. I shoveled all the snow on the ground and then began planting my wheat and beetroot farms. I was just starting to form the outer wall of the structure, but night fell and I was terrorized by zombies and phantoms for the next few minutes. Eventually, I realized I was getting literally nothing done and I was on the verge of death, so I just decided to drop back down into the mog hole. But I wanted to somehow make the night productive, so I went to the nether to grab some more basalt for the build. I also bred my sheep and pigs. As soon as day broke again, I went back up and continued building. I was able to get the outer wall for the building mostly laid out. I'm gonna go for a greenhouse sort of vibe since we've got the wheat and beetroot farms up here. Once I started placing in the white glass, the building really started to come together. By the time the phantoms came out for the evening, I was feeling really good about the progress. I spent the rest of the evening in the mog hole trading for emeralds so I could buy more glass for the greenhouse walls. On day 93, I went back up and made a path between the bubble column and the drop chute. Then I grabbed some podzol from my tree farm and used it to make a little flower bed in the back of the greenhouse. I needed a place to display my dragon egg, and this seemed like the perfect spot. I continued building up the walls until I was basically ready for the roof, but the phantoms drove me back into my hole for the night as usual. So with my eye on the day count, I spent the night digging a tunnel for the wither fight. I also brewed up some healing 2 potions real quick, just in case the fight goes south. I also want to bring some of my pigs to the fight so that I can try to get some wither flowers. Since squid can't spawn in this world, wither flowers are the easiest way for me to get black dye, which is great great because I want to use some gray carpet on the roof of the greenhouse. I got the pigs in the tunnel and everything was ready to go. So as soon as the sun came up on day 94, I started the final battle. But killing withers using this tunnel method is pretty foolproof, but I was still extremely nervous. If I died here, hours and hours of gameplay would be completely wasted. I tried not to think about it and just kept cool, taking the fight nice and slow. I did it! Oh, what a relief. Oh, we got a wither rose, nice. Our second major goal for this video was now complete, meaning we just needed to finish our epic base. So I dyed one of my sheep gray and then returned to the surface once more. I didn't really have much time to build after the fight before the phantoms came out, but I had a solution. Sometimes if you lay in a bed but don't fully skip the night, it still clears out the phantoms. I tried it out and it actually worked. I was finally able to build through the night unperturbed. Wow, this is looking great. I continued spreading the wheat and beetroot as they grew, and the farms were almost filled up. Then I dropped to breed my gray sheep, killing off all the white ones while doing so. When I returned to the surface the next morning, I brought some amethyst clusters with me to place next to the dragon egg. Ooh, that looks cool. I then grabbed a bunch of leaves and glowberries to use in the greenhouse, as well as some blackstone for the roof. I also took some time to put a mason villager in my trading hall. I can trade with the mason for bricks, which I can use to make lots of pots for decorating. I worked on the roof of the greenhouse through the night and into the next morning, but I was out of a bunch of materials. I needed lots more gray wool, so I sheared and bred my gray sheep again, and then traded with my villagers for bricks and glass. I also needed just a few last things from the nether for the greenhouse, so I took a quick trip to grab some crimson wood, blackstone, and nether bricks. Then I spent the rest of the evening mining for iron to use on iron bars and lanterns for the build. By day 97, I had enough materials to continue building, so I placed in the crimson trapdoors and nether brick fences. Sadly, I was still a few short, so I would need to go on one more nether errand. I placed down lots of pots, bred and sheared my sheep once more, and did a bit more mining for iron. On day 98, I was really feeling the pressure. I wasn't sure if I had enough time to finish the greenhouse, but I was gonna try my best. I grabbed more gray wool, scooped up some nether brick fences from a nearby fortress, and then I brought everything to the surface. Then I finished placing the nether fences and added some flowers to my pots. Next, I added all the details to the roof with the chains, lanterns, and iron bars. Once night fell, I went inside and placed some glowberries to help light things up. At this point, the greenhouse was basically finished, other than a bit of missing gray carpet for the roof and some fine details. I crafted a diamond hoe for myself, and I also grabbed some glow lichen for decorating. With the build almost done, I was able to relax just a little. On my penultimate day in the world, I did some last minute mining for iron, and then while it smelted, I filled in all the pots in the greenhouse with plants and fungus. I also placed more carpet on the roof and used my nether star to create a beacon behind the greenhouse with some gold blocks. Now we'll never lose our base. I placed in some more chains and carpet, but I was still just short on both. But I was pretty sure I had just enough time to get it all. Before I knew it, it was day 100. My final day in this world. I wish I could have stopped to enjoy it, but I needed to grind for the last few missing things. While I was thinking of it, I used the name tag I found in the mineshaft to finally give Grotto an official name. He deserves it for keeping me company in this lonely hole for the entire 100 days. Please, let Grotto know how much he means to me. Spam "We love Grotto" in the comments. I grabbed a bunch of stuff from my storage room to create a super cool firework rocket to celebrate 100 days. Then I mined for iron until I had just enough for the 4 missing chains I needed. I also grabbed the last bit of gray wool I needed for the carpets on the roof. I thought it would be kind of cool to have music in the greenhouse, so I moved all of my records up into a barrel and made a jukebox so I can listen to them whenever I want. Then I went onto the roof to place the last of the missing chains and carpet. It was snowing and something was just so peaceful and magical about it. I literally can't think of a better moment to officially finish all of the tasks for this video. All that was left to do was celebrate, so I threw on some good tunes and got ready for the fireworks. Oh, I can't believe it, guys. We did it! We made it! I'm not gonna lie, I think this was the toughest challenge yet. I'm so proud of our little base. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Wow! Happy 100 days, everybody! Let me know what preset you want to see me do next. Thanks for watching.